Hey there. Buckle up for a new episode of Executive IT, Autonomous IT's podcast made to equip you with the knowledge to make informed decisions about how best to guide your organizations towards smarter, more efficient IT investments. In this episode of Executive IT, we're thrilled to have guest host JB Snodgrass, VP of Procurement here at Automox. JB has spent his career in technology and has pretty much done it all, from CFO to controller, and now specifically leading all end-to-end procurement activities for our business. Appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, JB.
Thanks, Evan. No, excited to do this. I always very passionate about procurement. I've been around procurement my whole career in systems, and definitely love what I do, and be glad to share anything you want to know.
Awesome. All right, man. Let's kick it off with the first topic of the day. Procurement for many businesses, including ours, can sometimes feel like a black box. You put a request in, you get a decision out, you don't really know what happens in between there. Anything in general you can share with the listeners to help demystify that process?
Yeah, I think at procurement, there's a lot of things involved. It's not just negotiating and trying to get the best deal. I mean, you're also supporting the company and ensuring that you got the right legal terms and conditions. You've got review of the powers that be that can really understand, can we afford the tool? Is it in the plan? But even really most important for our company is security. We are a SecOps provider, and ensuring that what products that we do buy meet our strict security guidelines is super critical, and supporting that process to make sure we have the right documentation and conversation is extremely important, which I do take seriously.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we in finance and procurement, we don't know what you want to buy. We don't have the expertise that you do. We don't even know which tool is best. So we're not really here to tell you what you can and can't have. We're here to make your life easier and to help you get the best tool for the best price. So it's kind of like help us help you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I know with negotiating, and this is kind of really where my forte and where I love stepping in. That's one area I definitely love supporting the team. So
yeah, so it's all about that cross-functional kind of collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Help us help you. That's a big theme that kind of will continue on as we talk here, right?
Absolutely.
All right, this next question I got, I think it might be a little bit of a pet peeve of yours. So, let's unpack this one and go a little bit deeper here. But is there anything you want to coach the listeners on to avoid specifically, in negotiations or as they, approach external and internal teams about buying a new tool?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the important thing is, one, really understand the tool what you're buying. What is the competition? What is the market? One, it's important because you got to make sure you're buying the right tool. And with technology and disruption, tools are changing so fast. It's really incredible on how one tool in 1 year, a couple of years later, can be completely surpassed by another tool. So doing your homework, it's really important that you're not just going out and finding the first thing or what you know. You really do your homework and understand what you're trying to buy and why.
Yeah.
I'm huge on outcomes. I mean, what are you trying to solve? Because a lot of times you can buy tools and you don't really, for an outcome that really isn't important to solve.
Yeah. Identify that outcome.
Yep.
Understand the value that it drives for you personally, for your team, cross-functionally.
Yep.
I think something that you mentioned was that I'll word a little bit differently is position everything like an evaluation, and honestly treat it like an evaluation, right? You might be laser focused on the tool you want. You think it solves the problem for you perfectly, right? Bring other stakeholders into that, right? Evaluate this tool, evaluate that tool. It in your experience, it only helps strengthen your negotiating leverage, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the big thing. And the one other thing with that too is we have a lot of tools like at Automox specifically that can kind of do the same thing. Having that dialogue with me, I also help ensure that we're not buying two of the same thing across two different organizations. Um, but absolutely, when you get into the negotiation phase, the first thing is really know your battle card of what you're buying, what's the pros and cons of that product. I go to Reddit, I go to G2, I do YouTube videos, and this is the part of the job I love. I love going in and understanding technology, and but it really makes you more effective when you really understand what are the pros and cons, what are the weaknesses, what can the tool not do, what can it do. It helps negotiate it. It helps make sure you're buying the right tool to begin with, which is extremely critical. But when you negotiate the tool, if you've done your homework, the supplier will know. And having those key points at your fingertips and really leveraging that helps you get a much more competitive deal. So
Do your homework.
do your homework.
It's like poker. Don't show your hand, right? Don't commit. And that's a lot easier to do when you're actually evaluating, a
Absolutely.
suite of tools, right? Competitive landscape, as you mentioned. So
I,
I
I
think
like
that's
the poker analogy. Definitely when you play a card, you can't unplay that card. And I'll give you some examples of don't give your budget amount. That's pretty obvious. Uh, don't say that you're only looking at one supplier. Don't say that you got to make a decision in 2 weeks because the system's going to go down due to a critical functionality. There's some things you can't say, and you got to know before you go into that. You have to be very careful with.
and that doing your homework will help that, right?
Absolutely.
Communicating early and often, right?
Yeah.
Bringing cross-functional stakeholders in, letting your procurement leaders lead those processes, lead those negotiations. All of this will help you get the right tool at the right price, exactly when you need it, right? That's
Absolutely.
kind of what we're here for.
Yeah. And I think to that, I actually reach out 4 to 5 months ahead of renewal or when we need the tool. There's two examples. Because couple things, the sooner you do it, the more time you have to negotiate and more plausible the negotiation sounds and that you're evaluating multiple tools. Suppliers know it's really hard to get off of a tool. If you're coming in 2 weeks, 3 weeks before renewal, they know they've got you.
Yeah.
And they do because you can't practically get off of the existing tool and you can't make a smart decision and really look at multiple tools. So having those renewal dates, knowing your opt-out dates, knowing your contracts, extremely critical.
It was great. I was going to ask you, when should you be thinking about, I have a tool, I want to replace this tool. It's not getting me to
Yeah,
it's not getting me where I need it to be, right? It's not solving the problem that I want. When's that ideal time to kind of engage your internal stakeholders or maybe your external teams, the CSMs, your renewal points of contact? You mentioned 4 or 5 months, something like that.
I think it depends on the complexity of the tool. If you're getting into really major tools that have a lot of interstitials and other tools, like a conversation intelligence engine, a business intelligence engine, a CRM, you really have to almost be a year in advance. I mean, if it's really a major product that you're trying to rip and replace or look at alternatives, that's really expensive. If you got a smaller tool that's more of a bolt-on, I think you can go 90 days. I never go shorter than 90 days, just given it makes it harder to really create a plausible negotiation angle. But big tools, I'm already talking with our teams on several tools that we're not going to renew until October. You just got to get out ahead of it. So
Yeah, it sounds like a theme we're circling on is communication. It was a theme of the last podcast we had. It's a core theme here. Communication, clear lines of communication, and proactive communication. All of those things help you do your job. Help us help you, right? We're here to get you the right tool, the tool you want at the price you want, make the economics make sense for us. But again, it's, we're all part of this business. Communication is key. It starts and ends there. The earlier, the better.
Absolutely.
Right? So you're starting a new negotiation for a tool that you're trying to buy for the first time, right? Is there any guidance you'd give the listeners on pitfalls to avoid, phrases to avoid, things that you don't want to kind of show your hand early on in those evaluation cycles?
Yeah, that's key. You go in. First thing is you request a demo or you request a conversation with the supplier, with the understanding is that you're trying to again solve a problem, and let them sell you on solving that problem. Don't give out too many specifics. I know this sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but if first let them play their cards in their hand on what their tool will do. The important thing is, a lot of times you're looking for a minimum viable product. You're not trying to buy a tool that does 7 things and you only need it to do 1 thing or 2 things. So it's really important that you understand what the tool's capacity is, what it can do. But then when you reach out, first let them play their hand on what that tool will do. The next thing is really, and I'm a big believer in minimum viable product. You don't want to overbuy and you don't want to overextend, like, for example, licenses. And I've seen that mistake too. So as you get into the negotiation, it's easier then to then work on, if you need some more features or some more seats, start getting some initial pricing down and then work from that. The other thing too is never tell them if you have a budget number or if you're locked on a particular tool. Always keep that presumption of doubt with the supplier that you're looking at multiple tools. One, you may not even feel like you may be able to solve this internally, or make them try to sell you and win your business. And always keep them thinking that someone else is being competitive and they need to bring their best foot forward.
That's key. That's key right there. You said make them win your business. At the end of the day, you're going to be paying that supplier for your tool. That tool is going to solve a problem for you. It's going to fill a gap in a process, right? There's going to be internal value to you, but also to them. So they have to earn your business. And that's kind of where this do your homework theme early and often, communicate ahead of time, loop cross-functional stakeholders in. That's really key in kind of the overarching procurement umbrella, right?
I love the communication. Absolutely. So key.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, I think I've learned a lot from this, JB. I appreciate you being here, sharing with us all the insights that you have. I want to say a special thank you for taking the time. Any last final kind of words of advice for the listeners from your perspective here?
Mine is always, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. So always remember that.
It's words to live by. All right. Thanks, JB. With that, we'll say thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Executive IT. Join us next month.